everyone, Darren here, and on today's episode of WoTC Academy, we are going to look at part 2 of the Trading Shots and Damage miniseries. Specifically though, what you need to consider when trading with an opponent. Getting started right now, the first thing you need to consider is the position of you and also your opponent. Are you hull down, are you side scraping, or are you exposed to everyone to be able to shoot you? Same thing with your opponent. Is he hull down, is he side scraping, or is he exposed to simply allow you to farm him? That is one of the many things you need to consider when trading or potentially trading with an opponent. The next thing you need to keep in mind when potentially trading with an opponent is your armor and also the armor of your opponent. Is your armor going to be able to take a shot from him and bounce with a good chance of success, or is the enemy going to go through you like butter? Same thing with your opponent. What are the chances of you bouncing off his armor, and what are the chances of you going through him like butter? That is another thing you need to consider. Next on the list is the aim time. Is your aim time faster or slower than your opponent? If your aim time is faster, the chance of you being able to get a shot off before the enemy has time to fire back at you is much greater. But if your aim time is slower, then you have to deal with that potential risk of taking a shot before you can even dish one out in return. The next item on the list is movement and gun handling. They both go hand in hand, they're practically the same thing, but you need to keep in mind of, are you moving? Are you stationary? Is your opponent moving? Is he stationary? And what is the gun handling of both? Are you particularly better than your opponent when shooting on the move or stationary? And you got to think about the same thing in regards to your opponent, as that may be a factor of it might be a better idea to shoot on the move, or it might be a better idea to just find a hull down position and take the time to aim sitting still. Those are types of things that you need to consider when it comes to your movement and gun handling. Next on the list of items to consider is the health of yourself, and at least initially at the start of the engagement, the health of your opponent. Can you afford to take a shot if you make a mistake or are not able to destroy your opponent with one shot? Or are you a one shot, and if you cannot destroy your opponent with one shot or you make a mistake, are you going to have a quick trip back to the garage? That is another factor you need to consider when trading shots and damage. Another thing you need to consider, and I apologize for reusing a clip, is the teammates of both your team and your opponent's team. Are you going to have people that will come with you if you commit to a fight that you may have a chance of losing? Or are your opponents going to have the advantage in numbers? Is your teammates just going to hide behind you and let you take the fall? Your teammates and your enemy's teammates are also a factor you need to consider. This last factor to consider differs for almost everyone, and that is your mental psychology. Are you willing to expose yourself and accept the risk of taking damage in return for dealing damage? That is a factor or a trait that is kind of growingly getting absent in the game, where more and more people are less willing to go out and dish out damage because they are afraid that they are going to take damage in return or simply be destroyed. So that is what one of the main biggest factors you need to consider is, are you willing to expose yourself to dish out damage to your opponent in return for possibly taking damage from the enemy? Or are you not willing to move and expose yourself unless you have an assured opportunity to dish out damage without taking any damage in return? That latter option is, of course, always the desired option, but that does not mean that that is always going to be the case in every single game. Sometimes you will have to expose yourself to deal damage that is very much necessary to you potentially winning the game, and you might end up taking a shot or two in order to knock out a tank. And that is a mindset that you just have to accept in order to arguably advance your skill set in the game. And of course, potentially have a very good post-battle results screen for that particular game. But that concludes today's video on part 2 of trading shots and damage. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe. Also, special thank you to Flying Egg, one of my assistants, for grabbing a lot of this footage throughout the course of the week. But until next time, this has been Darren of WoTC Academy.